is with my 6-year-old picture. And why do I have a picture of myself when I'm 6? That's because I always remember what it was like to be a kid. So I knew from a very young age that I wanted to be a teacher. And when I was a kid, I noticed so many grown-ups around me were really awesome at remembering what it was like to be a kid, but some weren't. So I decided from a young age that I was never going to forget. So that is why I put my 6-year-old picture with me tonight, because I want you to know that 47-year-old Katy is here talking to you, but so is 6-year-old Katy. And by the end of our time together tonight, my hope is that you have a sense of what it means to be a curious, caring classmate. Maybe one or two things. And that's about it. We don't have huge goals tonight, simple goals. So we start off with this slide here because so many children, most of our children are really, really good at noticing the differences on the outside of us. Things that the kids will say, oh, there's maybe so many different skin colors we could have, or hair textures. Or kids have been starting to say, oh, when I wear a t-shirt that has Minecraft on it, but my friend wears Hello Kitty, that's something that's different. Yes, of course, so many different ways. And many, many of our schools have done a great job teaching kids differences we can notice. So I like to share this picture. This is a picture that's really special to me because it's another one of when I was just a kid. I'm probably about 4 years old in this picture, but I also want you to notice my friend Michael. Michael grew up across the street from me, and he was one of my best friends. He traveled in a wheelchair. That was a difference between us. Michael's body needed to use a wheelchair to work and travel. Mine didn't. So we like to think about all the different ways that bodies are different, that bodies work or that bodies travel. So kids will always notice the wheelchair. They'll also notice some of the kindergartners through second graders will say, wow, I really like their robot arms and legs. So we talk about what a prosthetic is, but also that prosthetics are pretty amazing. So some of them look like robot arms, but some of them look just like the other person's leg or arm, and you can't even tell the difference. A lot of kids will notice the boy with a crutch. And I tell them that one of the kids, I have 4 teenagers in my house, and everyone on the call can just go ahead, feel bad for me right away. Okay. But one of our 4 teenagers this winter, he's a hockey player. And even though he was reminded to wear bigger shin pads, he just didn't because that's what teenagers do. And he took a slap shot right to the knee and he broke his leg. So he had to use crutches for a while. And I asked the kids, if my friend Michael, who was in a wheelchair, or my son Max, who had crutches, came to the door that was closed, what would you do? And all of the kids together say, we'd open the door. Of course we'd open the door because it's not that hard to be a helper. But I think that the way that our bodies look different or work different or travel differently, that's all really interesting, but it's not what I want to talk about. What I want us to start talking about is how our brains work a little differently from one another. And because our brains are on the inside of our body, it's a little harder to notice. So I like to tell people about a man named Howard Gardner, Dr. Howard Gardner. He worked and still works at Harvard University. And when we think about Harvard, most of us go, wow, smart ideas happen at Harvard. Yeah, they do. And what Dr. Gardner was and continues to be interested in is all of the different ways that people can be smart. So he's specifically interested in children. So I ask the kids, I tell them, I'm going to take 3 or 4 minutes to explain the 9 different ways that people can be smart. But I'd like them to really, really listen and notice maybe 2, 3, 4 ways that they're smart. And maybe if they're really, really open-hearted, 1 or 2 things they struggle with. And then I'd also like them to pay attention and really try to notice what are 2 different things that a lot of students spend a lot of time. Which 2 smarts do we spend so much time working on in elementary school? So I'm going to start at the bottom with the little green square triangle with the girl doing a somersault or a cartwheel. She's body smart. She probably loves phys ed class. She probably loves playing outside. She'll get really excited at group games. She's probably even really interested when she goes to the doctor or nurse to get a checkup about how bodies work. And then I ask the kids, how many of you think you might be body smart? Then we move on to music smart. People who are music smart, maybe they play an instrument, maybe they sing, but also they're probably the kid that when they are listening to the radio in the car with their family, the first two notes will come on. They already know what the song is. They're music smart. Next to that is nature smart. And boy, do we need people who are nature smart. These are kids who love to be outside, who care about the planet, who want to know more about how our Earth works. They are advocates for the planet, and we really need them now more than ever. Then there's people smart. And people smart is something I tell the kids, I'm really good at it now. I've learned it. But when I was a kid, sometimes it was kind of hard for me. People smart kids will come in a room and they can almost feel the vibe of it. They know if there are a couple of kids in a fight, they know if their teacher is grumpy. They can feel if something changes in their house. They can just really feel people's feelings and they notice and they adjust to it. And we need them. Now, next to that is big questions. And kids who are big question smart, wow, the best ones of all, usually the kindergartners. Any room full of kindergartners has a lot of people who are wondering why, how, when, why is something this way? Why is that not fair? And sometimes as we get older, we start to lose that curiosity and that wonder. But some of us, we hold on to it. And those are the people who are big question smart. Next to that is art smart. People who like to make things, people who like to draw, people who love color, and they make our world beautiful. Next to that is number smart. And number smart, that one was a really hard one for little Katy. That was my hardest one. And honestly, even though I'm 47 now, still a little tricky, but it's okay because we all have things that we are naturally strong at and some things that we're a little shakier at. Underneath that, this one can be hard to explain, but the person has their hand on their heart because they are self-smart. And self-smart people, sometimes we don't notice them enough because maybe they're the quieter one in the room and they're noticing what they need, but they might also be noticing what other people need too because they are very good noticers. And self-smart people are peacemakers and our world really needs them. And then the last one, this one is one of my strengths. It's words. So people who are word smart like to talk and they like to read and they like to write. And always when I introduce this, the whole gymnasium of 400 little kids starts to talk because word smart people, we just can't keep our words in. We just love to talk. So at this point, I ask the kids, how many of you noticed a few that you are strong at? And all the hands go up. How many of you noticed maybe one that is challenging for you? And probably about a third of the hands go up. And I say that to those kids, you're probably self-smart because you've noticed something that's a little tricky for you and that's not easy. And then I ask them what I think is the hardest question. Which two smarts do we spend so much time, for good reason, practicing in elementary school? And I can always tell the schools that do a really great job with multiple intelligences because the kids have a hard time with it. I love when I ask that question and they start raising their hand and they say, big question smart, people smart, because then I know that that's a school that's valid, like really valuing so many different ways of being smart. But eventually we get to words and numbers, words and numbers. And it's okay because these are important things we need to read, we need to write, we need to understand our number world. But what I ask the kids is to imagine for a minute that there's a kid who's really, really nature smart. She loves animals and she's art smart. She can draw all the animals. And she asks big questions about why aren't people kinder to animals? I ask the kids, is she smart? And they all say, yes, yes. But what question or what mistake might she make about herself if she struggles with words and numbers? Oh, she might think that she's not that smart. And that, I think, is a really big tragedy because there are so many ways to be smart. And at its simplest form, that makes up neurodiversity. So we pause on this slide here because I want every child in the room to understand that they are part of this. Neurodiversity is not something someone is, it's all of us together. Kids know the word diversity. They've heard that because think back to the first slides about the way that people look different or their bodies work different. We've done a great job teaching them that. Now all we have to teach them is that neuro means brain. And then we have the example of people thinking differently. So I tell the kids then that some of my students, some of my incredible students, are going to be sharing some videos with them about their own experiences because what makes my school really special is that not all, but many, almost all of the kids at our school identify as neurodivergent. And when we decided it was time to go talk to kids on the South Shore about neurodiversity, some of the kids were like, great, can I come? But they needed to stay back at school. So what they made instead were some videos. And at Accord School, we use a lot of words and we use honest words. So I want to explain to the students in the assembly what some of the language is that they will hear. The first one is diagnosis. Some of the kids will say, I have been diagnosed with. And our kids probably, the kids in the audience know that because maybe they've been diagnosed with strep throat or COVID. But also, you can be diagnosed with different types of neurodiversity and neurodivergence. All that diagnosis is something a doctor noticed. Neurodivergent, that's a different and interesting way of thinking. And then I let them know too, they might hear words like autism, ADHD, and anxiety. And those are just some of the ways that people can be neurodivergent. And what I get really happy about is when I say those words, autism, ADHD, anxiety, every room I've been in, somebody will say, I have ADHD, or my brother's autistic, or I have anxiety. So what I think is beautiful is that the kids don't have shame about this. They just have a lot of questions. So I am going to show you the first video of my incredible students.
Hi, my name is Duffy. I'm 12 in the 7th grade, and my diagnosis is autism. My name is Basil. I've been diagnosed with autism, ADHD, and some other things.
My name is Alyssa. I won't necessarily share my diagnosis, so I tend to be I struggle a bit more paying attention.
So I'm Liv, I'm 14, and I have been diagnosed with ADHD and anxiety. A lot of thoughts.
The first thought that we want to share is that being neurodivergent comes with a lot of amazing strengths.
I think that personally, something that's great about being neurodivergent is that you see the world in a different way than most people.
Well, my memory is great. You're really creative. I remember facts. I tend to see things in a different way. And I'm gonna straight off. People find me like really smart. I personally think I'm pretty smart.
Really makes you a valuable person.
I just love to learn.
Do you feel like as an elementary school student, you had different interests?
I had a work phase.
Oh, you had a work phase. Okay.
It was bad.
I used to like go in during recess. I would go in the corner and look for worms and feed them leaves, and that's why I had no friends.
All right. How about you, Hazel?
Talk about special interests.
Yeah, that's what I love to
I
talk
have this
about.
thing where in Pokemon, I had this whole obsession with Pokemon. Alyssa knows. I had this whole stop. I had this whole thing. And it was like I had a shrine in my room dedicated to Pokemon.
Okay, I didn't know that.
I had a million Pokemon books and I knew all their entries. I knew like everything about it. And that would be exactly what I talk about like all the time. And the kids were sick of it. And I was a really little kid, like 3, 4, 5. We're super into street signs. Did you know that?
Yeah.
And I like set up as like toys like street signs, like stop signs and traffic lights, and yield signs and all that, and put street names, signs in green. I put them all over the floor. It was really funny. And then I got really into science, and now I'm really into a big kid movie called Lord of the Rings.
Don't most people have like interests and stuff? Because I'm always confused with people like, why do you focus so much on your interests? Because they interest me.
I mean, isn't that the truth? Right? So, like, sometimes we ask crazy things like, why do you focus on your interests? Because they're interesting. So, a couple of things that the students will notice about this is that I'll ask them, what do you notice that Olivia, that Liv was interested in? And they all notice, oh, she was really interested in worms. Right. She's nature smart. She likes worms. She likes bugs. And when she was in kindergarten, first and second grade, a lot of kids did. But then some, as the group gets a little older, sometimes that becomes not weirder, just more unique. So sometimes it's hard to find your people. And then I ask the kids, did you notice what she said? That's why I had no, and they all go, friends. That piece hits people in the heart because really, is that something that we should have if somebody has no friends because they have a different interest? And the kids think that's just crazy. Of course they should have friends. And then we talk about Duffy's interest of street signs. And a lot of them, especially the younger kids, they'll be like, wow, that sounds fun. Yeah, not only that, what I didn't tell you about Duffy and what he was too humble in that moment to share is that he has a whole map in his mind of the entire South Shore because he liked street signs so much that when he was a little kid, he was just mapping the whole place out. And if I say to him, oh, I was at Liberty School in Braintree today, he'll go, near Highlands, because he has a whole map in his mind. And that's amazing. That's something that we really, really think is special and cool. So that's great. But also, there can be some tricky challenges with neurodivergence because some of our smarts are super, super, super strong. But then some of our wobbly parts can be really challenging. And I'm proud of our students because they don't back away from talking about those challenges.
I'd say there are a couple challenges that come with being neurodivergent. I think some of the most obvious would include issues with sensory stuff like noise, so you'll have to put on headphones.
Things can be really loud for me, so I have headphones on me at all times. So if it gets loud, I just and then that's it. I need to move my body a lot. I jump. Oh, see, I'll show you. Ooh, that's so good. And it's hard for me to sit still. People don't understand your needs a lot of the time.
You're just not good at being able to connect with other kids, and you might need someone to come up to you and be like, hey, you doing okay?
I also have a hard time cutting my food, tying my shoes, a lot of like fine movement stuff. I don't really understand a lot of jokes. Like someone will tell a joke and I'll be like, oh, I don't get why that's funny. Whenever I get tired or overwhelmed, I flash out. I cry, I might yell. I get really frustrated. It's really uncomfortable in my stomach.
I'd say there are a couple challenges.
I'm just going to fast forward for a second. I was so proud of Duffy when he shared that it can be uncomfortable in his body. So the kids really, really relate to this. I will ask them, what did you notice that Duffy needs to do? He needs to jump. Okay. Why? So sometimes I'll tell them that I'll notice Duffy's body get very busy. Maybe he'll even walk in the hallway a little bit. And then he'll go sit down and he will draw the most amazing map in art class, or he'll make an incredible piece of writing, something super imaginative, because he was thinking. And when you explain that to kids, they go, oh, okay. So if you have a classmate who's jumping, of course you notice. That doesn't make you a bad classmate. But once you know why, isn't it okay? And they go, yeah, it is. And then they all notice Basil and Alyssa talk about their headphones. So we look at this slide together because not everybody, but many neurodivergent people have really strong senses. Some people, like Basil and Alyssa, have really great hearing. It's awesome if you want to spy on people, but it's challenging if you're in a loud, noisy cafeteria. So big deal. We wear our headphones. Some kids have superpower sight, but those fluorescent lights are really, really blinky. But most people don't notice it. So that's something that once we know, that might be why it's a little tiring for them. Some people who are neurodivergent have really strong taste. So it's might just be that they eat white rice and applesauce every day for lunch for a while. That's okay. And the same thing with smell. I always tell those fifth graders as they head off to the middle school, please don't take a bath in cologne because for the whole world, and also I've always been a girl and we just don't like that. Okay. But everybody in general, some people have really strong noses. And the same thing with touch. Some of us might love a strong hug or have our friend's hand on our arm, but some people might be really, really responsive to that. So if you want to give your friend a hug, you just ask. It doesn't have to be a big deal. Another part of being neurodivergent sometimes is how we communicate with each other. So at our school, we happen to have a lot of people who use a lot of words. We are wordy people. But I ask the kids, what are other ways to communicate besides words? And almost immediately, the first answer is always American Sign Language. Awesome. That's true. At our school, everybody learns it. But when they start to think other ways, what are some other ways people communicate? Maybe body language. Sure, that might be tricky for some folks. But also, some people use an iPad to communicate, and that's great. Some people use little pictures to point at what they need. A little girl in my assembly last Thursday, kindergartner, raised her hand and she said, I think some people use their thoughts. Yeah, you're probably right. And when we have an iPad or pictures or other ways besides words to communicate, it gets a little easier for everyone. So something that's really important to neurodivergent students and all students is that we all want to be included and part of the group. But we need to think about what are some of the things in the day, just a regular day, that might make it hard for somebody who is neurodivergent. So we look at this picture of a classroom, and by now the kids have heard about sensory. They've heard about all the different strengths, and they start to look. They'll say, oh, the bright lights. Oh, all of the things on the wall. Oh, that chair might be uncomfortable for someone like Duffy. Yep, good noticing. What might be hard about a birthday party? And the kids all go, nothing would be hard about a birthday party. Birthday parties are great. So then we show them this.
Usually, except for the part where you get like cake and pizza and all that, all the kids kind of just do their own thing. I've always been socially awkward. I'm really shy sometimes around other kids, not around adults, around other kids.
So a lot of you guys have said that birthday parties were hard because of like the randomness, the loudness, all of those things. But did you still want to go?
I didn't really go to birthday parties a lot, but like I guess the one time I did, I had fun. I guess. I just wanted to be included. I guess I wanted to feel normal.
I wanted to go to the birthday parties, but I never got invited because I would have meltdowns and stuff. And most schools do have a rule that if you're going to give the invitations out in class, you have to give them to everyone, but still it would always be I didn't get one in my little mailbox.
Sometimes we age out of birthday parties. Or as we hit third, fourth, fifth grade, we might have smaller groups at our birthday party, and that's all okay. It's okay. When I was growing up in the 1980s, we sent invitations, and there were 8 in a pack, and my mom said 8 people. So what do you do about it? You don't talk about it at school. You make sure that either you do invite everybody or you don't share it around. And the older we get, the more important that is too with things like social media. Once people, and with elementary schools, I mostly don't have to talk about this, but in some towns I do. And if kids are on Snapchat and have a snap map and they can see where everybody else is, but they didn't get invited, those are important things to think about. I was in a town 3 weeks ago, and at the end of the assembly, an adorable little pair of twins, autistic twins, because they told me so, came up and said about the birthday parties. We always used to get invited, but now we're in 3rd grade and nobody invites us. And last week, everybody got one in their mailbox except us. And one little tear. And when I tell the kids about that, it hurts their heart because everybody knows what it's like to not be included. So that's a video that we keep in there, and we really pause for a moment. And then we switch gears to tag. So we talk about if I, at the end of this assembly, said, okay, all 200 of us, 300 of us in this room are going to have a big game of tag outside. That'd be fun, right? Yes, yeah, that'd be fun. Great. We'd all start. We know the rules of tag. But then after 2 minutes, let's be honest, tag gets kind of boring. So I say, okay, now it's freeze tag. Are the rules the same? No. And what if some of maybe a couple of my students who were really into the game, they were across the field, they didn't notice. And they might not even notice that everybody's playing a little differently right now because they're still thinking it's tag. And now Duffy gave us a big clue. He said that sometimes when he's surprised, he has big reactions. So let's imagine that he got tagged out. He wasn't expecting it, and he had kind of a big reaction. Then everybody's like, oh, is that fair? No. Because if somebody just said, if we know our classmates and we know that just helping each other and being good to one another means, hey, now it's freeze tag. Everybody still can play the game. We talk about summer camp, and I ask kids in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, let's be honest, how many of you like it? And only about half the hands go up. Because summer camp can get really tricky for anybody, unless you're a real sporty kid. But specifically for our kids who are neurodivergent, what they will say is it can be really uncomfortable. It's very, very hot. There are often bugs. There might be like all the teachers are like 17 years old, and they're well-intentioned, but they don't know how to manage a big group of kids yet. And the other thing, an autistic boy told me a week ago, he came up a lot of times after the assembly, the kids will wait in line to talk to me. And he said, the thing you forgot to share about the camp is that I don't know anyone there. And when I'm at school, all of my classmates know my things. But when it's all new kids, they don't know my things. So I'm always really anxious. This is the last example we use. And we talk about the groceries. So I say to the kids, okay, so let's imagine it's the end of the school day and your grown-up picks you up from the bus and says, okay, great. So happy to see you. Before we go home, we're stopping at Stop and Shop. Half the kids go, oh, okay, yeah, I feel you. Okay, so now let's imagine that you are in Stop and Shop and you are in the cereal aisle with your grown-up. And you say to your grown-up, hey, can we get some Fruit Loops? And they go, no, we're really trying to cut down on sugar at breakfast. And you think to yourself, ugh. But then across the aisle, you see another kid and they're fighting the same good fight as you. They're asking their grown-up if they can have Cocoa Krispies. And their grown-up says the same thing. No, we're trying to cut down on sugar. And that kid who you don't know, but is about your same age, has a huge, giant reaction, starts to get really, really upset. Would you notice? Yeah. But do you need to be like this? No. Because a lot of times what we do is we just give people space. And at our school, we say we give space and grace because we don't know what's happening there. We don't know if that kid had a really hard time being under the lights or got called out at tag or maybe didn't get invited to a birthday party and that was the last thing their heart could hold. So we just give space. It's absolutely okay to be curious. Ask your grown-up in the car. This is a favorite of every kindergartner because kindergartners love things that are fair. So I ask them, what do you notice? Are these pictures exactly the same? And they'll say, no, one has fair and one has equal. Right, so let's talk about equal first. If I said, okay, everybody gets the same single box, but here's the problem. What we want to watch is the baseball game. Everybody wants to enjoy it. But is that fair? Because we have the tall friend in green or in orange pants, and he probably just feels awkward because he doesn't need that box. And then we have our friend in the purple shirt who's trying to peek through a crack because he doesn't have enough space, enough blocks to see over the fence. So then we look at the side that says fair, and it's not equal. Everybody has different amounts there. But is it fair? Yes. Okay, so just like if Basil and Alyssa need to use headphones in class, which never have music on, by the way, okay, but another classmate doesn't need them, it's fair. Or if one classmate needs an iPad to communicate, who doesn't love an iPad? But the other classmates don't. It's fair.
I have this thing where I draw and it helps me focus, and I like can't focus without doing something with my hands or drawing or something like that. And that's like really different from all the other kids, and they'll always be like, "Why is Basil drawing?" It's like because it helps me focus and it doesn't help you focus. So we're all doing like what helps us.
Kids like really didn't get it because I think the teacher got it and she's like, okay, this kid's a little different, learns a little differently. We need to make some like accommodations for them. And so I was like happy with that, but other kids weren't because they'd be like, why does Alyssa get to like sit outside of the classroom for a minute?
Right.
Like it's not fair that they get to take a break from the lesson.
Okay.
Because it's fair. Because we all need different things to be able to learn. So this is the point where we talk to the 3rd through 5th graders about being a great classmate and not a fake friend. Because by this point, most of those kids, if not all of them, are right on board. And I've never, at 5,000 kids, I've never had one kid yet make a face that looks like they're not on board. They're really wanting to do a good job. Okay, so what does this look like to be a good classmate? And they'll start to have ideas about it. Give somebody space, give somebody a moment, invite somebody. But what does it look like when that goes sideways? Because sometimes we try too hard. And what doesn't help is if one of our classmates is having a hard time and we go, it's okay, Sally, don't worry. Ew. None of us want to be talked to that way. Yuck. Okay, so, and they get that instantly, what it is to be a good classmate versus a fake friend. And the older we get, the trickier it is.
Well, it didn't help if they were not mean to me about it. But like, they didn't like comment. They just like sit there, just like stop there. Maybe they're like, "What the stuff you doing?" But they never said anything. They're always super nice to me. Even I know a lot about this kid. Its classmates aren't that nice to them, but they were nice to me. I feel really lucky for that.
I think maybe some of them have tried to talk to me because no one really did, and I was mostly alone. Didn't really know who to talk to.
Put themselves in my shoes and maybe think, oh, this person might be a little bit different. But if I was in their shoes, I would think like treat others how you would want to be treated.
I kind of feel bad for them because I wish they were taught better to embrace the differences and not look at them as something to be afraid of.
But we're just generally people, and we don't, and well, yes, as we're different, but still people should be treated with respect, and in a lot of ways, I'm just like you, neurotypical people.
Do you want friends?
Yes, deeply.
I've seen that video 100 times. And every time he says yes, deeply, it gets me in the heart. And the truth is, it just doesn't have to be that hard to be a curious, caring classmate. So my hope is that by the end of our assembly, everybody has thought of one way that they can move a little closer to being curious and caring. And I remind them, I talk directly to the 5th graders at this point, and I let them know that it's going to get a little hard because the older we get, the more we're really worried about what everyone thinks. And sometimes having a neurodivergent friend, first of all, you're not going to get a more loyal friend. But sometimes people might think, oh, or people are so worried about their social. Who cares? Be brave. It's hard, but you can do it. Okay. And it's worth it. We're all better off when we step outside our comfort zones with our friends. And then we wrap up by remembering that there are so many ways to be smart, and there are so many ways to be a good thinker. And that's what makes our world beautiful. And wouldn't we want it to just be that way? We don't want it to be any different way. And then what I let the kids know is that they listened often, but for 45 minutes straight, silently and with their hearts. And that gives me hope because right now our world feels a little bit tough in some spaces. But when people care this much about how to be a good, curious, caring classmate, I have a lot of hope. So I'm going to say the same thing to you. Thank you for listening. And I am so, so proud that Alyssa and Basil are on the call with me tonight and have opened their hearts and their minds to share some thoughts and also take any questions. Okay, so Alyssa and Basil, I'm going to have Lynn unmute you.
Whoa, what just happened? Oh, there we go. I'm low-key having some technical difficulties. What's going on? Oh, wait, hold on.
Nothing.
There.
You're doing great,
Oh,
Basil.
there we go. All right, we're good. We're good.
Awesome. Okay. So Basil and Alyssa, can one of you jump in first? Okay. And just anything that you want to share that from the presentation or any thoughts that you have or anything that I might have missed that's really important for our call tonight.
For sure. Basil, you want to
Yeah.
start first?
Hi. So, is everyone here a teacher? Or...
Nope. A lot of
Nope.
parents, just community members. Yeah. All different folks.
Okay. So I think something that I think adults or teachers or anyone should know is that like I don't know, you really never know if someone's like neurodivergent or has issues. Uh, like the kid might even not know that they have like something. The parents might not know. No, nobody might not. Oh my God, that's a double negative. But
Yep.
but so I think you should just try to like don't assume that someone has something that they don't. Don't assume someone's neurotypical or neurodivergent. Just try to put them yourself in their shoes or something like that. I don't know.
A great point, Basil.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's something I thought that
That's a beautiful
started off.
thought, Basil. Thank you. Alyssa, what would you want to add?
I just like to add, like, if this is more of like a personal story here, but when I was very little, my parents got me jeans. I did not like the feeling of the jeans. The denim felt very uncomfortable, so I would get very upset whenever I had to put on jeans, and my parents just like I don't think they really understood. There's like, why are you like being difficult and like trying not to put these things on, like why are you fighting us kind of. And I was like, because it just does not feel good for me. And I think that if you have a kid at home and let's say maybe you try and get them to eat something and they're like, I really don't like this does not taste good, the texture is off, I just cannot do this, try to see it from their perspective and try to understand that, yeah, maybe you can eat that thing, but they can't, and they have a harder time with things like that. So I think it's important to recognize that.
Great point. Yeah, Basil, go ahead, honey.
Okay, so I kept this in. There's three stories in order of appearance on the slideshow. The first one I think it was the texture thing, right? Yeah. So I don't think I think I misunderstood the touch thing where the hug. I think that's what you meant. But what I was thinking is like, okay, so I go to thrift stores. And even if I like the pattern, I touch the fabric and go, ooh, no, I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that. Because like the texture really matters, like the type of fabric. I'll like physically recoil. And so that's what I thought when you meant touch.
It's definitely part of it, Basil. I'm glad that you brought that up.
Mhm. And then
the other one, yeah, it was the Carter one. Oh no, wait, I'm not
Oh,
supposed to name drop. My bad, chat. Call him
call
Ed.
him Jim.
Call him
Jim.
Ed. Um,
Ed.
so Ed was really sporty, and I was like, we were choosing teams. The kids were choosing teams, which you should never, if you're a movement teacher, never let the kids choose teams because your feelings are gonna get hurt. So this person Ed was being chosen. Like everyone, so no, there was oh my God. The coach for the kids, the team coach was gonna choose the next person. All the kids were going, wait, yeah, don't name drop. Ed, choose Ed. And and they were like, okay, Basil, you go on that team. And everyone was like, no, oh man, why did you choose them, man? And I felt horrible, and it was so like upsetting. And then I think it might have been the same day. We played kickball, and sorry, this is like a really long story. We played kickball, and it was like. I like this happens with a lot of sports and I play. I didn't know the rules. Uh I just remembered. I think I was helping my friend who was crying, so I didn't know the rules. So when I came back, they were like, "Basil, go to second base, go to second base." And I was like, "Where's second base? They're still over there." They were like literally yelling at me. I'm like, "What am I supposed to do?" I was like so like I don't know. I was so confused and it was really upsetting for me. So that, yeah, I just don't like it when people yell in sports, obviously.
No, it's a lot. It's definitely,
Yeah.
yeah, thank you for sharing that.
And then there was one more. It was at IKEA, sorry. It was at IKEA. Um, I think I was like, I think it was like due to colors. Like, there's like, I think my mom definitely doesn't remember this. I don't think she's on the call right now.
Poor
So I'm
mom.
trying not to say it wrong.
Okay.
So we were choosing like stuff at IKEA, and then I was like, no, the color doesn't work, and she was like, no, it does, it's fine, and she kept saying, it's fine, Mom, it's fine. You don't need to feel bad about this. I was like, started melting down. I was like on the floor crying, like in the IKEA, and people were giving me weird looks, and it was like really embarrassing. So I guess. That was just a story to do with the meltdown thing in the grocery store. I just felt like sharing that.
Yeah, and you brought that up today at school because we were just kind of sharing stories ahead of this tonight. And then Alyssa, you mentioned a follow-up comment to Basil's story about IKEA that I thought was really beautiful. Do you
Yeah,
remember? Yeah, is it
I
okay if you share that?
I do remember. I'll just generalize it. Whether it's like at school or in a public setting, sometimes, I can have meltdowns and I can get loud. I can get very like choked up with tears. And what I noticed, at least in one instance, was when this happened to me in a grocery store, I was just kind of there, but people just walked past. They gave me grace. They didn't make a big scene out of it. They just walked right past. And I think that's such a big thing is like sometimes we can notice. We can notice when you're staring at us or making a big deal out of it by making comments about it or whispering to someone about it. Like we can notice. And to see people just like ignore it or just like treat it like it's, like part of everyday life and they just walk right on by, that's important. We notice. And it
Yeah.
makes me personally feel a lot better when people aren't staring because it makes me feel like I am wildly different from the rest of the people and that also makes me want to say, please don't like give up on us. We can be hard to deal with sometimes, and we know that. We have our own struggles, but please just don't give up on us because we are still people too, and we are worthy of love and respect just as any other person is.
I love that. I love that. And I love how you notice just the simple kindness too. of someone walking by. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Alyssa. So Lynn, were there any questions in the, oh, I love that. Okay, awesome. Did anybody, oh, look at Erica Hope just shared, Alyssa, that she felt that you articulated that beautifully.
Thank you.
Okay. If anyone has questions or comments for the kids, feel free to pop them into the chat, or we're
I
small
want to
enough.
answer questions.
You do, but Basil would really like to
I'm
answer.
so ready.
And what I will say too is that I think that sometimes as grown-ups, we feel like awkward about asking questions or about asking things, or like you're not going to hurt anyone's feelings here. Right? Right, kids?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all about honesty. All right. So, Lynn, did you get any questions? Okay, I can see them. Do you see them? Okay. Can you unmute?
Yeah, so I think people are sending them directly to you instead of to everyone. So
Oh, okay.
the question for the kids about what it feels like to go to the Accord School.
Can I share my speech?
Yes.
So, whenever there's like a visiting parent and they're like, "What do you like about the Accord School?" or something like that, I always share this. You heard it in the video. Yeah, forgot the word. But it's like, yeah, I draw to focus, and like I don't think any of the schools I've been to before this knew that. At least one teacher from every school I've ever been to has been like, Basil, why are you drawing? Don't do that. One time at my most recent school, my previous school, not this one. This one's great. But uh I was wearing my headphones and drawing. This was like the first time, or well, not the first time. This was like a time that was like new, and I'm like, oh my God, this is great. I feel so much better. Then a teacher, I think she might have been new, but she was like, Basil, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm not listening to music. I'm literally just drawing and putting on my headphones. That helps me focus. She like didn't believe me, and she like, I don't know if she like got fired or something, but she kind of like yelled at me. And so I went out of the room crying. And then later she came back and she was like, "Oh, Basil, was it to do with me? Did I do anything wrong?" I'm like, "No, you did everything great." It was, and I didn't want to say anything, but like, don't do that, teachers. Try to understand.
So, Basil, this is a follow-up question that somebody just sent to me. And Basil or Alyssa, if you want to comment this. This teacher wants to know if they see a student struggling, what words could she use to help figure out if the student needs help or if they should walk by? Because she doesn't want to embarrass them or single them out in a way that doesn't feel good, but she also doesn't want to ignore them if they need help.
Oh, sorry, Alyssa, do you want to?
Sure. I can start off by saying it's very situation dependent because some kids like to have the teacher come up to them and be like, "Hey, are you doing all right? Do you need to go take a break in the hallway?" But other kids like hate it. They're really embarrassed by it. But I think if you just go over to the kid in question maybe and let's say you hold up like two fingers and one finger is for staying and and the other finger is for like going out into the hall and taking a walk with a member of the faculty and you ask them like which choice they would rather have and you allow them to make that decision for themselves, whether they need to leave the room or if they would rather stay and like have someone talk to them about it there. That's my part. Basil, you can totally say whatever.
Yeah. Sorry, I was like talking. I wanted to give you a chance. Sorry. Also home base. I love your name. It's a great name. Um. Also, I don't know why my name is. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. My name is Rick. I don't know how to change it.
It's okay. We know you're Basil.
No,
Basil, before
my
you
nickname's
hop in,
Rick.
B, can I just add something to what Alyssa said? Alyssa, what you said, it sounds like grown-ups and adults, teachers, parents, it really helps to have a plan ahead of time. And it helps to know a student well. Because then if this teacher could ahead of time say like, hey, I noticed that sometimes you have big feelings. Would this be helpful? So that there's a plan. Does that make sense?
I definitely think it's helpful to notice. Like if you notice that one of your students has like expresses themselves more let's say vibrantly than another student, and if they do have big moments where they have big emotions, then yes, you can probably work off of that and be like, yeah, this kid sometimes needs help regulating. Maybe the best plan for them is to take them out of the room so they don't disturb the other kids and ask them if they need any help, like what they need in that moment, or, keep them in the room if they need to be like in the room and they don't want to leave. Definitely helps to know the kiddo first before deciding what to do.
Okay, totally different topic, really quick. Oh, and then Lynn, I see that you have one too. One of the participants asked, how old were you when your family shared your diagnosis? And do you think like there's a time it's too early?
Uh, I think it depends on the kid. Oh, wait, did you want to answer?
Either,
No,
yeah.
no, no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think it depends on the kid. My parents, I think it was during COVID, so I think it was like 10. Um, and apparently they knew sooner, and it was like, I don't know, it was, yeah. Actually, I didn't have much to say. I don't know why I answered that.
That's okay. So you were 10, and did that feel okay to you?
Yeah,
Okay.
I knew
All
what it
right.
was because of like a YouTube video, which is kind of embarrassing.
Is it the
But like,
Darman video,
yes,
Basil?
it was so weird. I
Basil
had no
brings up a
idea.
really good point that it's good to have those conversations before there's a lot of internet use. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alyssa, how about for you?
So for me, when I took my neuropsych, like my parents, they went on the call with the psychiatrist who did the neuropsych while I was in school so she could share what she got out of the neuropsych. And my parents were, I'd say, pretty upfront with my diagnosis, and that didn't bother me personally because I was like, okay, it's better that I know now what I have so that I can work on it and improve upon it. But I would say if you're going to bring up a diagnosis to your kid, don't make it like an object of shame for them. Just be like, this is your diagnosis, and that's okay. That's totally okay. And help them to embrace it instead of being like hyping it up to be like, oh, you're different and that's gonna be scary. You're gonna not be able to fit in that well because you're so different. Like, no, let them embrace the differentness. And that ties back to like the multiple intelligences that allows them to explore their multiple intelligences and be like, hey, I'm really like nature smart and I enjoy that. So I'm going to pursue that. Just, I think allowing your kid to just giving them time to process as well as making it like a comfortable situation for them instead of like we need to have a talk because that could potentially like make them think they're in some kind of trouble, like a lot of kids will get talked to when they're in trouble, and if that's the precedent you're like setting coming into it, the kid's not going to be all that happy to hear they have a diagnosis. And I agree with Basil and you on the internet thing is like there's so many misconceptions about different neurodivergencies on the internet, and it's good to maybe like get that out there with your kid as well and be like, hey, here's the facts. You've probably heard other things. Some of them more than likely are not true.
Great point. Lynn, you had a couple other questions.
Oh, can I say something?
Oh, yeah, sorry, B, go ahead.
It's okay. Um, I wanted to say this last question. Uh, it was the one about what you should say if someone's having a uh instead of I okay, instead of saying you need to take a break, don't say that. You say, do you need to take a break? Do it as a question. It's like you need to
Yeah,
take
yeah.
a break.
Ask the
That's gonna like
kid.
single you out. That's gonna be like it's gonna be really embarrassing, make you think you're in trouble. It's fine. Also, Erica, Hope, I love your smile. It's giving me hope.
Erica Hope is my friend from middle school.
Oh, nice.
Lynn, what other questions came in for the kids?
So there was just a comment. Someone just wanted to give an enormous thank you to everyone for sharing your experiences and being such bright lights in the world. And they wanted you to know that you're making such an impact and that they're so grateful.
Thank you
you,
for
that's
coming.
so
I'm grateful
sweet.
for having that. Oh my God, the words. I'm grateful that you're listening.
Yeah, we're grateful you're taking the time to hear our stories.
Hmm.
One last question that just came in, and Basil and Alyssa, you would be better equipped to answer this than I would. Have you encountered any YouTubers, okay, who are neurodivergent themselves and have been a positive influence on you? Is there anybody you'd recommend? Because we can also put together a list if there are many.
Ooh, I have some recommendations. I have like one, but
Okay. All right. Do you want to share it?
um sure. Illuminations on YouTube. She animates a bunch of different stories from her life. Some of them are just like wacky childhood moments, but she does have a video about times she should have known she was autistic, and I think it's a great deep dive on like what she experienced growing up and how she connected that to her diagnosis. And she's just like a very sweet internet persona. I think she had a great impact on me when I was little. So
Yeah, I had like an animation YouTuber phase. Mom,
So
remember Jaden Animations? Loved her.
Jade
Yeah, we
Animations.
love her. She was great.
So do you
Still
think the
love her.
two
She's
of
the
you
best.
could help me put together a list and we can send that out with our email?
Oh my
Yeah.
God, yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
awesome. All right, I am always very sensitive to the time. So it is 7:30. So I think that we will say thank you to everybody for taking the time and hearing our stories and caring. And we hope that you stay connected to our community. So we will send you out, at Basil, Alyssa, and I will send you out an email tomorrow afternoon where you can have the recording and also you can sign up to stay in touch with us. And then also Basil and Alyssa will make some recommendations. The Basil
Wait,
and
I
Alyssa.
can. I
Are
didn't
we
know I
ready?
could do this. I can react with.
And now we notice all the beauty of Zoom.
Yeah, wait, can I react with a goose emoji?
Give it one good reaction, and then we're going to say goodnight to our friends.
Duck.
Thank you.
Ah, duck.
Thank you so much. Everybody have a great night.